So thank you all so much for coming to the year-end presentation for the Integrated Development Group. What this presentation will look like is we'll first do welcome acknowledgements, then go through an introduction of what IDG does and who we are. Then speak about, for spring 2014, what have been our accomplishments, even outside of the projects that we've done. And then each team will present about the project that they specifically did, and we will have a break in between the two, because the presentation in total should run about 1 hour and 15 minutes. And so if you do have to leave, please feel free to do so. And then end with closing remarks. So first, welcome acknowledgements. We just want to say thank you to all the University of the Pacific faculty and staff that have supported us along the way. Especially want to acknowledge Dr. Lori Lichter-Heath, who has been instrumental in supporting the program. And then to our IDG Advisory Board, many of whom are represented in the audience, for also supporting the program. To the IDG alumni that are a constant support network and family. And to all our friends and family that, of course, do innumerable things to support us every day. And a special thanks goes to Dean Gale, the Dean of the Eberhard School of Business, for being a support to IDG as we've transferred underneath the business school. To Jerry Hildebrandt, the previous Executive Director of the Global Center for Social Entrepreneurship, who has been a constant inspiration and has answered every phone call that I've ever done, so he should get an award just for that. And Spencer Ton, the founder of IDG and the advisor for many years. And finally, Max Cow, the graphic designer for our deliverables, which are always beautiful. So, for many of you, what is this IDG thing that these students are always doing, and what is the mission? So the mission of IDG is we're a student-driven management consulting firm for social entrepreneurship that seeks to accelerate high-impact social entrepreneurs through an interdisciplinary approach to problem solving. So what that means is we take university resources, we build an interdisciplinary team, so we take about 10 to 15 students every year from all different schools at Pacific, whether it's the School of International Studies, College of the Pacific, Eberhard School of Business, Engineering, and we bring them together and pair them with organizations, whether nonprofits or socially mindful businesses, to complete projects. And projects may include marketing strategies, fundraising strategies, things that work on the sustainability of the organization. And then over the course of a semester of the year, we deliver that service to the organization, hopefully having an impact both on the organization and the students themselves. So what impact have we had? For students, we've been able to engage the university community in social entrepreneurship by preparing students with hands-on skills that they can apply to whatever job that they bring to as well. And so IDG alumni have actually gone on to win national scholarships, to do graduate level programs, to work at Fortune 500 companies, or world-renowned non-governmental organizations, or even start their own social enterprise. For our clients, we've had 11 partners since 2010 when we started, both locally and globally, and we've been able to see the amazing impact that has had on those organizations. And now I'm going to bring up Joshua to talk about the Spring 2014 program accomplishments.
Thank you so much, and thank you again for coming in today. Before talking about the accomplishments, I want to outline specifically what some of the goals of IDG are, because those goals are really what allow us to accomplish so many things we've done thus far. And those goals are fourfold. First, we focus on student development, and that comes in two parts. We focus on developing the skills that students bring to the team, which is always going to happen when we have an interdisciplinary group. And then second, we focus on developing new skills that hopefully these students will be able to acquire through working on the projects. Our second goal is just project completion, and that means finishing these projects as dictated by the Memorandum of Understanding, which is the agreement we sign with our clients, and to the satisfaction of those clients. We also want to continue alumni engagement. IDG is very fortunate to have a very active and large network of alumni, and we want to find ways to utilize them in the present and ways to keep them involved in the future. And then finally, university promotion. We believe that it's very important not only for our clients, but also for any social entrepreneurs or people that we partner with to know that the University of the Pacific is a school that is really helping to pioneer and helping to push this new field forward, and that is both the field of social entrepreneurship and the field of experiential integrated learning. So we were able to accomplish these goals in a number of different ways. But the first thing that we were most proud of was our spring retreat. Now, any of our retreats are very important because they accomplish two different goals. First, they allow our students, who are many times new to the group, to meet each other, to develop some of those very important team bonding skills and relationships that are going to see them through to the end of the year. But it also gives and instills in them the skills that are going to be necessary for the rest of the semester. The spring retreat is also important, though, because it is unique from the fall retreat due to the fact that we invite other previous IDG alumni to participate. Now, this previous spring retreat, we saw the largest involvement from IDG alumni we have ever seen before. We had 10 alumni come and visit us and help teach training seminars. Those alumni participated in delivering training seminars to our students, led bonding exercises. They also shared in a career panel talking about how they moved forward and the experiences they had after graduation, as well as participated in program strategic planning. And what we mean by that is both the strategic planning of how IDG is going to move forward as a program, but how also our individual projects can move forward and get off on a right foot to start off the rest of the semester. The next accomplishment that we had was the alternative spring break. Now, historically, IDG during spring break has always traveled to some location, whether it's to work with a client or to just give students that experience of meeting with other social entrepreneurs and social innovators. We've traveled in the past to Guatemala, to Cairo, Egypt, and this last year, what we wanted to do is go to New York City specifically. We wanted to go to New York because we felt this was one of the emerging hubs of social entrepreneurship, and it was going to provide an incredible opportunity for our students, not only to meet and rub shoulders with some of the leading social entrepreneurs out there, but also to simulate a real-world consulting experience where we had an office space rented out. We woke up, went and worked in the office, had a lunch break, and then went to meet with other professionals to come home. Now, during this break, we were able to do a number of things. As previously mentioned, each individual in IDG worked an average of 15 hours that week. Additionally, we met privately with 6 leading social entrepreneurs. Those included the Clinton Global Initiative, Women's World Banking, and Echoing Green, just to name 3 of them. Additionally, we also attended a networking event at the Center for Social Entrepreneurship, which was the office space we were renting out. This event featured 200 leading social entrepreneurs that we were able to meet with, which was invaluable practice for our students, not only because it gave them that hands-on experience of meeting and networking with people, getting to practice those pitching skills we talked about in retreat, but it was also able to establish partnerships. In fact, one of the partnerships that we were able to establish was with an entrepreneur who is becoming potentially a full-time client with IDG for next semester and even semesters to come, providing us with additional clients. Second time's a charm. And then the final thing we were able to be real proud of and we were able to accomplish this last semester was just some of the social activities. Now, first and foremost, our team, as you can see right here, most of our team at least, was able to meet with Dr. Lori Marker. Now, Dr. Lori Marker is the CEO. Eric, if I can have you punch that back in, thank you.
You can't press the top button.
The laser pointer? Okay. But Dr. Lori Mark was the CEO of CCF, an organization you guys will hear a lot more about in a few minutes. But our team was able to go and meet with her during a presentation at the San Jose Zoo. And this was an incredible opportunity both to really meet face-to-face with some of our clients, but also to get some feedback from them and to really hear and see the impact that our project was having. Additionally, we were able to bring in outside speakers. We were able to look at, meet with David Hopkins and allow. Not that we allowed David Hopkins to meet with us, but separate conversations going on there. But we're able to meet with David Hopkins, who works with Game Changers 500. Game Changers 500 is almost like Fortune 500, only it's for social entrepreneurship organizations. So an incredible contact where he has offered his time, not only previously, but in the future, to mentor IDG and to provide clients for us in the future. Additionally, we also met with Crowley Cabral, who was an IDG and Pacific alum. She was, yes, at the fall spring retreat, but came back even afterwards to continue to give us future training seminars. So it was really an incredible experience altogether. And now, after talking about some of those accomplishments, we want to focus on really the other 2 goals that we have, and that is, again, student development and project completion. And to talk about that, we're going to look at the two projects that we took on this semester, starting first off with the Unreasonable Institute. And I'm going to invite up into the stage the project manager for that, and that was Anthony Malgieri.
So my name is Anthony Malgieri, and I'm the project manager for the Unreasonable Institute project. Now, what Unreasonable Institute does is they're an organization that takes social entrepreneurs starting their ventures and really tries to scale them up, coach them in business, put them in front of investors, and really get them to where they can change lives. Just kind of an overview. We're going to go over some introductions, talk about the partnership, the project outline, and then move into some more specific areas such as the criteria, some trend analysis, take a look at some sample profiles of the 20 total that we provided to Unreasonable Institute, and then some concluding remarks, including a summary and some expected results. So, first of all, to acknowledge Banks Benitez, who's the Chief Entrepreneurship Officer at Unreasonable Institute. He was really our main contact. Stayed in contact through us throughout the whole semester, really coached us on what they wanted, gave us a good idea so we could give the best possible deliverable. We'd like to recognize Charlie Ansbach, who does some consulting work, a lot of work in CSR. Came in, helped us out a couple times, really had a hands-on, kind of approach in helping us out and taking the best approach to complete that project. And Corelli Cabral, who's an alum of IDG, came in and helped us a ton in the editing stages. Really couldn't have done it without her. And then Max Cow, who put together the beautiful report, did all of our graphic designing, so we're very appreciative of that. So our team is consisted of myself, and then Courtney Bai, who's a sophomore finance major, Deidre Graham, who is a first-year senior, double majoring in international relations and mathematical economics, and then Bo Cameron, who's a senior, and she is double concentrating in finance and management information systems. So kind of to look at the partnership, looking at Unreasonable Institute. So their mission is to unlock entrepreneurial potential to overcome our world's greatest challenges. They kind of do that through mentoring these social entrepreneurs and really coaching them in specifically in business areas. They're saying, so this is kind of an equation, if you will. They bring together ventures, mentors, funders. They bring them all together for 5 weeks and do kind of a boot camp type thing. And their eventual goal is to raise every venture that comes through to eventually change over 1 million lives. So that's really their main goal, is to scale up, get funding, get coaching. And as you can see, they've been successful. They've been around for 4 years. And in 82 ventures, they've changed over 2 million lives. Their goal eventually is to make 100 locations in 100 different countries. They're currently at 3. They have it in Boulder, Colorado, one in East Africa, and one in Mexico. So looking at our project, Unreasonable really gave us their needs, and what their needs were specific business training. They had a lot of mentors, a lot of coaches that could provide business training in general, but they needed more specific training. We also talked to a couple of past ventures, those being Blackwood Finance or past partners, Blackwood Finance and Rally Software. And what we kind of talked with them is that the partners, they really want to coach in those specific areas, and that's what we're trying to move towards and kind of expand Unreasonable's network in that way rather than just general training. And so we wanted to develop a set of criteria, which was really a tool to kind of find who's the perfect partner for Unreasonable Institute. Now, there's a lot of companies out there. We wanted to find a concise way to show them who's the best. And then using that criteria, our goal was to vet some leads for them, who would be good partners. And based on 5 key areas that they wanted us to focus on, those being marketing and branding, public relations, web development, technology, and hiring and resourcing talent. There's also a list of 6 secondary areas that we also found companies for, but they were not on the top 5 list they provided to us. So our process kind of looked like, it was a 2-step process. The first was that criteria, and we really saw that as a very integral part. After all, once we had the criteria, that was what we were going to use to look at these companies. So that was really, the first step, most important step. And we did that through just a big brainstorm, came up with a bunch of questions, and then really looked at them to find it to be a concise way. We got it down to 10 questions. What is the fastest way, the most effective way that we can find the perfect partner for Unreasonable Institute? We then tested that criteria on 15 previous partners and 55 potential partners. That brought us over the benchmark of 40 to get a sufficient sample size, and that was our goal. And then we looked at that data, looked at that research to eventually come up with 20 profiles of top candidates, as well as 15 additional companies that we kind of just provided a brief synopsis on that might also be good opportunities to partner. And then to bring in, or to talk about the more specific areas, first the criteria I'd like to bring up.
So I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the criteria. So the criteria was a critical component of the Unreasonable project. It's comprised of 10 questions, which, as Anthony said, we filtered down through a large brainstorming session or two. And with this criteria, we provided a key. And this key is kind of to give a purpose for every single question, why we wanted it to be answered and why that would help Unreasonable, that answer. And so we tested the companies for accuracy to see which would best fit Unreasonable Institute, and we profiled 20 companies based on the company's criteria score and the qualitative research that we conducted. So now I'm going to go through the questions in a way that the perfect Unreasonable partner would answer them. So, has the company been established for 5 years? The reason we ask this is because the Small Business Association has said that 51% of employer establishments last for more than 5 years. So this reiterates that the company is well established and stable, so that the Unreasonable Fellows have like a resource that is well known and credible. If the company has worked with Unreasonable Institute, which our companies have not, we want this to be in the criteria to use as a future tool, because ultimately Unreasonable Institute wants to have as many resources as possible. So instead of looking for a new company to partner with, they would go back into their resources, find a company that might have more than one key area that Anthony mentioned, and then go back to that company, reconnect, and use their resources for a different fellow. The company we would want would have experience with entrepreneurs so that they would be more qualified to work with the fellows of Unreasonable Institute. The company would have international offices as well as transferable skills, and hopefully be a global company so that as many Unreasonable Institutes around the world may use their resources. And if the company could work remotely, this would of course expand the global reach. And if the company has their own social mission or project and provide promotion services, this could reiterate that they are really involved and see this as a large part of their core competencies, so they might be looking to partner with Unreasonable Institute. The perfect partner would have training and or certificate programs so that the Unreasonable Institutes may utilize them. And this includes conferences, training manuals, webinars, and all sorts of things. And if the company can offer more expertise in one key area, this of course makes them a better candidate than one that does not. Now, this is a graph which compares the total average yeses in comparison with the 20 profiled yeses. And as you can see in every single question, the top 20 profiles scored higher on average yeses than the total sample size. And this validates that these 20 profiles really are the best potential partners for Unreasonable, and that our criteria works. So now I'm going to pass you on to Anthony, and she's going to talk about the trend analysis.
So as Bo and Anthony mentioned, the major part of our deliverable in the final project that we presented to Unreasonable Institute was working with the criteria, not only making the criteria and the key to explain the questions, but also testing the criteria for accuracy to make sure that it actually worked and vetted the appropriate partners that Unreasonable was looking for, and providing this final recommendation of 20 potential partners that Unreasonable Institute could then reach out to and pursue this further relationship. So what we did initially was we did test the criteria for accuracy on 15 previous partners of Unreasonable Institute to make sure that the criteria was actually working and that the partners that Unreasonable was looking for were actually scoring high enough. After that step, we also expanded our sample size to the 55 companies that was mentioned previously, and within that 55, we did come up with our top 20 profiled companies and 15 additional that we will be highlighting. So here's a graphical analysis of the criteria average scores across the groups and subgroups within our analysis. So this first bar on the left here is the 15 past partners that we ran through the criteria and tested to make sure that these partners is what Unreasonable is looking for. So on average, they scored 7.8 out of the 10 questions. These next three graphs are slightly lower scores, but we have to take into account that they could only score a high, the highest that they could score was a 9 out of 10, because one of the questions within the criteria was have you worked with Unreasonable in the past? So they're at a slight disadvantage from the start because they could only score a 9. However, they're scoring right alongside and even outperforming some of the past partners when you take that into account. For example, the 20 profiled companies that we're giving to Unreasonable Institute scored on average 7.6 on the criteria. The 15 additional companies scored on average 6.6, making the total sample size of 55 companies an average of 6.8. This next slide breaks it down even further within the top 20 profiled companies. Within each profiled company, they represent a select group of key business areas that Unreasonable Institute is looking for within a partner. So we divided these into the 11 key business areas, and we analyzed the average scores within them. As you can see, there's a couple of key trends to notice. The first one is the legal services scored the highest at an 8.8 average criteria score. And the reasoning behind this that we found is that historically the legal service industry is more prone to working with startups and nonprofits and providing pro bono legal counsel or legal consulting. So they have a history that some of the other key areas didn't necessarily have. And then the second trend to notice is that the logistical and supply chain industry scored slightly lower at a 7 average key area score. And this was because the nature of this industry is very centralized. It's very dependent upon the physical location of not only the offices, but the services that they are distributing and supplying. However, it's important to notice as well that across every single 11 key business area, the 20 profiled companies scored no less than a 7. So these are the top of the top within their field and really represent the ideal partner that Unreasonable Institute is looking for to further their fellows' development. And here's another visual representation and breakdown of the key areas that each top 20 company falls under. So you can see on the left-hand side, we have the top 20 companies, and then the top heading are the 11 key areas. And then the dots in the horizontal lines represent each key area that the company falls underneath. And you can see the majority of our companies not only fall within multiple key areas, but they fall within more than 2. So these are companies that can provide a variety of services and help Unreasonable Institute and their fellows in a variety of different ways. There we go. So as well as doing some quantitative analysis, we did do some qualitative research and analysis on our top 20 companies. And this really highlights the effectiveness of the criteria and explains why these companies are being profiled, because they are really leaders within their field and have a lot of great attributes that Unreasonable Institute could benefit from. For instance, 25% of the companies scored a perfect score of 9 out of 10, which means that the only question that they missed was have you worked with Unreasonable in the past. So they, and all the other questions, they scored yes on. Another statistic, or another example, is that 17 out of the 20 companies have pre-established training programs. These could be for their employees, or also online modules and webinars that are accessible to the public. These training programs involve a lot of different areas, such as social media 101, business pitching for your nonprofit, as well as project management seminars. So these training programs could really benefit Unreasonable fellows, teaching them the key technical business skills that's necessary for their venture to succeed. And further, 19 out of the 20 companies have already established corporate social responsibility departments. This means that they either work on an initiative each year that's the same within their company, or that they donate time, skills, or money to further nonprofits and charities. And then moving along, the top 20 companies that were profiled are located, their headquarters are located across 4 different countries across the world. And those countries include the US, the Netherlands, Switzerland, and England. So you can see that there's a wide global reach and is exactly what Unreasonable Institute is looking for in a partner. And then this is only furthered by the next characteristic, or the next trend, excuse me, is that over the 20 profiled companies, they're located collectively in over 157 countries across all 6 major continents. So this is an amazing fact that could really benefit Unreasonable Institute, especially because a lot of their fellows that they're working with are international and they're located in different countries across the world. So they're really looking for a partner that can provide their services not only within the US where Unreasonable is currently headquartered, but in the countries around the world. And then finally, we'd like to highlight that 5 of our profiled companies were actually one of the top 4 within their respective industries based upon revenue. So not only are these companies providing the services that Unreasonable really desires for their fellows, but they're also leaders within the scope and magnitude of their own organizations. So they're the companies that are making the most money and have the most amount of clients. And these resources could really benefit Unreasonable fellows. As well as talking about the benefits, we also noticed some potential limitations that could arise from some of these potential partnerships with Unreasonable Institute. For example, 6 of the companies were only located in the United States. So this kind of decreases their global reach because the physical location of their headquarters and their offices are US specific. However, within these 6 companies, many of them were technology partners or web development firms, which could be applicable to a wide variety of countries because their services can be accessed remotely via the internet. And then the second limitation that we found was that there were 2 specific key areas that scored slightly lower compared to the rest of the key areas that we've been highlighting. And those were distribution and logistics and supply chain. And again, the reasoning behind that is the nature of the industry is very physically, like the location specialized. So it's very hard to have a global reach in some of these companies, as well as their previous background with entrepreneurs is not as lengthy as some of the other key areas. However, across the board, our top 20 profiled companies represents a wide variety of services and has a lot of noticeable trends that would really benefit Unreasonable's fellows. And I'd like to invite up Deidre to talk more about some of the specifics.
Okay, so basically I'm just going to go over some of the examples of the companies that we profiled in. Okay, so again, we researched 55 companies. We put 55 companies through the criteria, and in total we are recommending 20 companies to Unreasonable Institute. So I'm going to go through 3 companies that were from the top 5 key areas, which were hiring, resourcing talent, marketing, branding, and technology partners. So basically what these profiles looked like, they were each a page, just to make it simple for Unreasonable to go through. And we had a short overview of the company. We included their core competencies, what are comparable organizations, where are they located at, headquarters, and who's their CEO. We also listed what key area they represent, and we also talked about benefits and limitations of the organization, and then also talked what their criteria score was, why they scored it, and what were further recommendations of why they recommend them to partner with Unreasonable. So the first company is Adecco. Adecco is the world's leading human resources firm, so it fulfills our key area of hiring and resourcing talent. It's a Fortune Global 500 company on the Swiss exchange, so it's a very renowned company. It actually connects 70,000 people worldwide to jobs each day, what they estimated. It also has a huge global reach. They're actually located in over 70 different countries around the world. They have over 5,000 branches with 31,000 employees that work for them. They're located not only in Europe and the United States, but also in South America, Asia, and then some parts of Africa. So not only are they a company with a huge global reach and a company that is very renowned, but they also have a very established CSR department. And they have a lot of really intensive and extensive social projects. One of them is called the Way to Work campaign, which is a really awesome campaign. The International Labor Organization actually estimates that over 75 million young people, so us, worldwide are unemployed. So Adecco estimates that 54% of young people are looking for more help in order to get a job. So as of last year, Adecco on April 30th, 2013, they had 10,000 employees from over 50 countries worldwide go into the streets, into universities, and help give coaching sessions, career guidance, and free training workshops to young people, and they gave over 200,000 of these, so pretty extensive. They've also worked with the Olympics and the Paralympics, and since they started, since 2005, they've been providing athletes with educational, life skills, and career development and job placement services, and they have helped over 10,000 athletes from over 100 different companies. So in total, they scored an 8 out of 10 on the criteria, and we further would recommend them to Unreasonable because they can assist in helping ventures find quality employees to assist in their ventures, which would increase efficiency, and also they can give advisory services pertaining to management operations services as a whole. So the next company is DB Worldwide, and DB Worldwide is one of the top 4 marketing and branding firms worldwide, and they fulfilled our key area of marketing, branding, and media. They are a well-established marketing and branding firm, obviously, and are recognized for excellence in their field. In 2013, they received a top honor from the International Advertising and Marketing Effectiveness Awards. They also have a huge global reach, like Adecco. They are located in over 90 different countries around the world, including the developing world, which is very important. They also have an established CSR department, and they've done multiple things, such as they created a TV and radio campaign to help raise awareness over the importance of sports and childhood development. That was just one of their projects. And furthermore, they do have an established training program available for employees, which could be utilized by Unreasonable fellows in the future. This training program helps with digital, financial, and strategic skills. And they also scored a 9 out of 10 on the criteria, which, again, that is the highest score these companies could have scored because they were not previously partners with Unreasonable. And so not only were they one of the highest scoring companies, they also can provide media-based marketing strategies and online training programs that can be easily accessible to Unreasonable ventures. So the Nerdery is a pretty awesome company. They are an interactive technology design and development firm and fulfill our key areas of technology partners and web design. They are nationally recognized. In 2013, they won Emerging Business of the Year at the Best in Business Awards. They also, in 2014, so this year, were a Community Impact Award finalist for their pro bono work. So they've done a lot of pro bono work for nonprofits. They have a campaign, a program that's called the Overnight Website Challenge. And what they do is each year they offer 24 hours of service to nonprofits to set up their websites, their social media campaigns. And they've worked with over 114 nonprofits, and they have given over $4 million worth of value in services to these nonprofits. So they're obviously interested in volunteering their time to nonprofit organizations. They also have an initiative to create the largest public computing grid to tackle projects that benefit humanity. Furthermore, they're a very successful company. They've completed over 8,000 different projects and have totaled over 2.5 million hours worked. So, very extensive. They also offer webinar training series of a variety of useful topics such as social media and mobile apps, which could be utilized by Unreasonable Ventures. They also scored an 8 out of 10 on the criteria, and we furthermore recommend them because they would give Unreasonable Fellows access to programmers, web designers, and consulting in the fields of technology and engineering, so computer engineering. And I would like to pass it on to Anthony.
So all of this brainstorming, researching, trend analysis, everything kind of culminated in a few different things. First of all, the set of criteria, which really is a tool for filtering companies, who would be a good partner for Unreasonable Institute. And using that, we went into the 20 profiles and the 15 additional companies, really setting out leads of in-depth profiles, showing Unreasonable, these are companies that can help you in the key areas that you showed a need for. And then also additional recommendations. Those would include, tips, ways they could tailor the criteria, ways they could include past partners in making decisions, and some ideas of how to reach out to new potential partners. And then what we see this doing, hopefully, is fellows seeing benefits. We really see that they gave us that need of they need specific training, and so we provided those companies that can give that training. And so we hope that these fellows will be able to utilize that, scale up their ventures, and really make that difference. And with Unreasonable Institute, as I mentioned before, they're growing to vast amounts. 100 locations in 100 countries. That's huge. There's going to be a lot of companies wanting to partner with them, and they needed an effective way to quickly get it down to the companies that they want to partner with that would be the most beneficial to them. We think that this is going to do that. So at this point, you see all the hard work that we did. We're very happy to share it with you. And now we would love to take 5 minutes to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Anthony, I know that you gave a presentation today to Unreasonable Institute by Skype. What was their reaction to this?
They were extremely happy. Banks, our contact, was just astounded. He must have said the words, "This is so much more than I expected," about 10 times. So we're very happy with that result. He gave us the need, and he made it known that we fulfilled that need, and that made us very happy with the work that we did.
Did you charge anything for your services?
It's just a base fee just to kind of cover our printing costs. At this point, it's not really, it's a pro bono type of organization, so it's kind of just that big base printing costs.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And do you anticipate that there will be any further involvement with IDG and the Institute from what you've done here?
Definitely. Actually, in our meeting with the banks this morning, whether it be directly with the Institute or with some of their ventures, he actually, we had that open communication that we could work with some of their fellows, we could work with them in the future and kind of, looking at this on a more long-term level, the opportunities are definitely there to keep working with them.
Yeah, Anthony, great work. I just want to ask, as this is your conclusion of this time and your project, what was the biggest takeaway for you? And what was the biggest challenge?
Okay, I think this would be best, I'd love to hear from everybody. I can start. That the biggest takeaway for me was really opening my eyes to the field of, how much corporate social responsibility is present, across these firms. The biggest companies, the 5 out of our profiled companies were top 4 in revenue, and they still have these great CSR departments. So that was really eye-opening to me, and something that I'm interested in getting into, after college. So that's definitely eye-opening for me, and I'd also like to hear from, maybe what your takeaways were.
Definitely talking with banks and seeing the things that they have provided with Unreasonable Fellows, and we've actually had a chance to, we Skyped with an Unreasonable Fellow from the past, and it was just amazing to hear what the Unreasonable Institute is doing, and how our service to them is going to help them in such a bigger way. And I think that one of the challenges for us was definitely coming up with the criteria, what makes the perfect partner for Unreasonable, and just going through the past partners and seeing what kind of trends we saw within them, and then trying to take all those different trends and scale them down to something really quick in only 1 page. It was a lot of brainstorming, but it ended up working perfectly. So.
And just to continue that, one of the biggest takeaways for me personally was actually conducting the research and learning how to, create this company profile that highlights not only the benefits, but also some potential limitations that this partnership could have. And it was a very real-world experience that is applicable to not only, schoolwork and academics, but also professionally. We also had a chance to talk to one of the fellows that had been in a previous Unreasonable Institute on the phone, and he was essentially telling us that he needed help in these key business areas, which is exactly what we were researching. So it really put it into perspective that our work will not only help us as students and graduating seniors, but also it will help these fellows actually make a difference. And then for challenges, again, it was kind of where we start. How do we come up with the criteria? What sort of questions and what sort of companies would really benefit Unreasonable? And really figuring that out and analyzing our resources as a team and kind of conducting that final project.
For me, I think that there was 2 big things that we really took away from this project. The first thing is we might end up having a road trip this summer to Unreasonable, because we just got invited this morning to come out. And they have all the entrepreneurs from around the world that come to their institute for 5 weeks. He actually told us, oh, you guys should come by. So we might be taking a road trip this summer, which would be awesome. And just the opportunities that offers us for networking and for connecting with other ventures that, who knows what might come out with that. We might get other clients in the future for us And I was just reading about all these initiatives they've had that worked with, helped tens of thousands of people around the world, and they're able to mobilize people super fast. And I just thought about how awesome would it be for a company like this to be able to help fellows in the future? Like, what are the opportunities that will come out from that? And it was just this really cool moment for me personally. That was the stuff that I'm researching right now may help thousands of people in the future, and that's pretty awesome. So personally, like that, I thought that was really awesome. I took that away from it, and that would be cool to see in the future if something like that actually happens. And as far as difficulties, I do agree with, I think it was Bo that said, just cutting down on the information we found from all these companies into one piece of paper was really difficult. It wasn't one piece of paper in the very beginning, and when we did we actually had to do Google Docs where we filled out all of the criteria questions and notes on each of the companies, and we were going to give it to banks, and we put it into the document. It ended up being over 200 pages. So it was definitely, it was a good exercise in being concise. So, yeah.
This might be a bit bigger picture, but how will the work that you've done in this project be able to be used in future IDG projects, and how will it be disseminated to the future generations?
As for helping IDG, I really think that just this analysis of research and kind of that network, I think will help IDG just in the way of networking for potential clients in future projects. And then on a more kind of micro level, just I think putting together these profiles, we've had a lot of projects putting together profiles, and I think, the more practice we can get putting those together and kind of doing that networking type thing and all that research, I really think it'll be very beneficial for all IDG teams.
So now we're going to talk about our next project, which is with Cheetah Conservation Fund, and I'm bringing up Jen, who was the project manager for that project.
So yes, today we present to you our project on Cheetah Conservation Fund. Cheetah Conservation Fund, known as CCF, is located in Namibia, Africa, and is the world's leading cheetah conservation organization, who strives to be the center of excellence in saving the cheetah and its habitat. They have successfully saved thousands of cheetahs in their brilliant efforts of education, action, and research. They came to us in its new passion and way to expand their scope from animal conservation into the climate change realm. CCF is promoting a new climate change campaign. A campaign that shows the drastic effects that climate change is having on endangered species. That the cheetah symbolizes the fragility of this planet. That it is an example that all species and communities are being affected by climate change. And it strives and shows that we are also being threatened as humans. That the simple call to action is that we must mitigate climate change. Before going into our research findings, I would first like to acknowledge 4 main individuals. First, Teresa Delaney and Dr. Lori Marker, who we worked closely with throughout the entire project, and it was a pure pleasure to work with them throughout. Second, Sarah Minjes, who was an alum and our advisor throughout the project. She gave us invaluable knowledge and help throughout. And lastly, of course, Max Cow for his awesome work with our graphic design for our project. So the team consisted of myself and 4 other analysts. First, we have Marina Oda, who is a senior, and she's an applied mathematics and economics major. We have Ana Miguel Rodriguez, who is a junior and a sports management major. Third, we have Eric Fieldhouse, who is majoring in marketing and minoring in pre-law, and is also a senior. And then Dylan Dibble, who is a senior and our engineering major. So the purpose of our project was to provide CCF with partners and partnership strategies that will help accelerate their global climate change initiative, their new methods and dialogue. Initially, the format of the project was broken down into 2 core sections. First, the story, and second,
the portfolio. The story illustrates the challenges that the cheetah and the human are facing with climate change, and is a document that can be used to attract other animal conservation organizations to catch on to this new movement and new dialogue with CCF. The portfolio highlights organizational research that we compiled on 8 potential partners that were provided by CCF that would help accelerate the new climate change initiative. They are organizations that will provide platforms for funding, for promotion, for training, and for networking opportunities. To construct the story, we followed 3 core steps. We first went into researching climate change effects, of course, on the cheetah. We looked into CCF's previously reported research, and then went into the International Panel on Climate Change reports from 2013 and 2014. From there, we looked into other reports such as the EPA, NASA, and other peer-reviewed reports. Following that, we authored all of our report findings into 3 drastic dangers that the cheetah is facing. And that is food source scarcity, habitat loss, and reproduction and health. From there, we provided a human connection to these key dangers, that supporting animal conservation and fighting climate change is necessary to save these animal populations, but also human populations. Now for the portfolio, we were given a list of previously identified partners by CCF that we furthered our research on into compiling organizational overview, approach, and challenges into comprehensive profiles for CCF. And first, I would like to introduce Marina, who will lead you first into the story, which will be compiling the present threat, catalyst, and consequences that the cheetah and the human is facing.
Our world is threatened by climate change. And that's pretty melodramatic sounding, I'll admit, but it is a very pertinent issue, as the increasing greenhouse gas emissions have raised the global temperature by 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit in the past century. And in the next 100 years, it is expected to rise an additional 2 to 11.5 degrees Fahrenheit in the next, oh, I already said that right. Anyway, this does have very large-scale impact on both our land and water systems. We can expect extreme weather patterns which increase our vulnerability to natural disasters. The increasing temperatures do strain our food system's productivity. Already, we've seen a reduction in the crop yields of corn and wheat. The increasing ocean temperatures negatively impact the fishing industries in the tropics. Their catches are expected to decline by 40 to 60%. And of course, global warming does threaten to completely melt the polar ice caps. This not only severely disrupts that habitat, but also does affect many coastal communities because of the rising sea levels. So we have identified 4 major human-related catalysts: pollution, land degradation, resource mining, and inaction. To begin with pollution. It is most prevalent in cities, but it does definitely contribute, it largely contributes actually, to the increasing greenhouse gas emissions contained in our atmosphere. Carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide are the top 3 gases emitted by human activities, where carbon dioxide is the most abundant. Now, by taking trapped CO2 samples in really old ice, we're able to map the historical levels of carbon dioxide back by 400,000 years. And as you can see, carbon dioxide does naturally fluctuate, but never exceeds 300 parts per million until 1950. It drastically exceeds past the natural maximum in the middle of the 20th century because our human output of carbon dioxide exceeded the world's natural recycling rate. Our second catalyst is land degradation. Now, land degradation is caused by both climate variations and human activities. These human activities include urbanization and poor farming practices, such as crop monoculture, overgrazing, and incorrect irrigation. It is these activities that contribute to lowering a land's human and animal carrying capacity, as well as reducing the soil fertility. Additionally, land degradation can contribute to social issues, such as poverty. In the case of urbanization, this occurs when people migrate to cities faster than the job creation rate there. And of course, in case of poor farming practices, that is not a sustainable practice and will negatively affect those farmers' livelihoods in the long run. Land degradation is a very important aspect as it does affect 1/6 of the world's population and 70% of total dry land, which is a quarter of the world's total land area. Our third catalyst that we identified is resource mining. As indicated by the picture, we specifically identified oil mining as it fuels the human contribution to both greenhouse gas emissions and pollution. Not only does oil mining cause visible environmental damage, but it also releases toxic chemical runoff that leaches into the soil and the groundwater, causing negative ecological and health effects. Now, combine the mining process and oil usage both contribute to pollution and result in a loss of biodiversity, habitat degradation, and long-term negative public health effects. Now, the three aforementioned catalysts are all related to human activity. But of course, human inaction is as much a catalyst, as much a component to climate change. A lack of international collective action accelerates and perpetuates the climate change cycle. Now, these are the catalysts of the climate-related consequences, identified as habitat loss, food scarcity, and reproduction and health. It is these three consequences that connect the cheetah and the human and everything in between. And I'm going to pass off to Eric Fieldhouse to address habitat.
I would like to direct your guys' attention to this cheetah's right eye. As you can see, it has been blinded. The cheetah relies on its keen eyesight to hunt. Without it, it is essentially a death sentence. Every day, these animals are threatened by starvation, displacement, and death as a result of excessive polluting of the greenhouse gases previously mentioned. Intermittent increases in carbon dioxide levels have been attributed in large as the leading cause of bush encroachment in Namibia, where the largest concentration of remaining cheetah live. Namibia has over 200 million acres that are currently undergoing ecological changes. As you can see by this map, cheetah populations have been pushed into more concentrated areas, particularly in the southernmost region of Africa where Namibia is. This places extreme pressures on the species that currently live there, as well as the resources that they use. The cheetah's loss of land is caused by what we call the carbon dioxide fertilization effect. This is an anomaly that's caused by increased levels of CO2 in our Earth's atmosphere. With this chemical compound being more available, invasive plant species are growing and densifying at a rate faster than the ecosystem of Namibia can adapt to. As a result, wildlife and farmlands are experiencing water scarcity, as well as shifts in their biodiversity. The grass that used to cover the Namibian territory, unlike the grass that used to cover the Namibian territory, these woody shrubbery and trees absorb much more of the water and retain it for much longer periods of time, leaving the land surrounding it unsuitable to support various species of herbivores that the predators rely upon, and it also cuts into the local food production. This is a global view of all the areas that are experiencing increased levels of vegetation as a result of the fertilization effect. As you can see down here, this is Namibia, and as satellite tracking images show, there is a higher density of vegetation than there was previously before. Dr. Rain O'Donoghue and his fellow scientists at the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization report an 11% increase in foliage in areas such as North America, the Middle East, especially Australia, and of course, Africa. This is what threatens the cheetah as they hunt. These thorns here are approximately 1 to 2 inches in length. They cover approximately 64 million acres of the country, which is about 32%. That is to say that a third of the country is covered with what you see here. As mentioned before, the cheetah have to hunt at high speeds, and when they collide with these plants, the thorns get lodged into their skin, and in most cases their eyes. Subsequently, when these animals become blind, hunting is virtually impossible. Unable to acclimate as fast as they need to, the cheetahs are forced into unfamiliar territory dominated by protected farmlands. The cheetah are then faced with two options. They can either hunt in the farmland for the livestock and most likely be shot, or hunt in other areas that are dominated by predators that are more skilled and that are stronger than they are. To go into more depth for the food scarcity, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Anna again.
So, the cheetah's preferred and most hunted prey is the Thompson gazelle. And because of the CO2 fertilization that Eric was speaking of, the gazelle's habitat is rapidly decreasing. Climate change and livestock grazing are negatively affecting plant groups' production and quality, causing the extinction of some plant species that are the gazelle's main food source. The IUCN SSC Antelope Specialist Group found that in Africa there was a 60 to 70% decline in the gazelle's population since the 1970s. And furthermore, the hyena and lion are now predating and competing for this gazelle. It is very high in nutrients, so they are bigger animals, so they are capable of fighting, whereas a cheetah, who has a smaller framework, which is meant for speed, can't fight off these bigger animals. The competition and predation, the combination of those two, is decreasing the cheetah's rate of survival and forcing them to live outside of the regular game reserves and move into areas where there is more conflict with humans. The impacts of food scarcity are severe. Whereas the cheetah is now forced to eat less nutritional food, move into human territory, and get killed, or they end up starving without eating. And next, I would like to pass it to Dylan for reproduction and health.
Climate change has affected the reproductive ability of the cheetah. According to Kenyan national scientists from the Kenya Wildlife Center, temperatures have decreased the population of Thompson gazelle. This has led that cheetah starts hunting zebra, which has a much lower protein content, affecting their abnormal coils in their sperm and low testosterone levels. The cheetah suffers from limited genetic variation, which is due to several severe bottlenecks 10,000 years ago, which led all but one of the species to become extinct. This leads to intraspecific breeding, and now the cheetah shares 99% of the same genes, whereas other species usually only share about 80%. Inbreeding, low testosterone levels, and low survival rates have made the cheetah very susceptible to climate change. Next, Marina will talk about human habitat loss.
Here we have the story drawing the connection between the cheetahs and the humans. Now, it is without a doubt that humans face consequences as well. The rising sea levels from the melting ice caps negatively affect many coastline communities, especially those in the Pacific Asian islands. The islanders of Papua New Guinea have already become the first entire community to be displaced by climate change. Similarly, the island nation Maldives in the Indian Ocean, they have already established an evacuation plan for their people because at their very highest point, they are only 8 feet above sea level. That's it, right? Venice, Manhattan, London, Shanghai, there are many, many coastline cities that are situated in very low-lying areas and are very, very vulnerable to the rise in sea levels. Ultimately, the IPCC's most recent report, it projects that up to 150 million people will be displaced by 2050. It's not very long from now. We too, like the cheetah, face an issue of food scarcity. The tropical regions, due to climate change, the tropical regions are expected to, their food production is expected to decline due to climate change, land degradation, and water scarcity. In these regions, farmers are expected to lose anywhere from 15 to 50% of their present crop yields. The farmers in these regions are very, very They are very food insecure, and this is seen by the famines in Somalia. Although the northern regions do experience positive agricultural growth, it is not enough to actually mitigate our losses. The United Nations does project that in 2050, we will lose up to a quarter of our total global food production. Now, concerning health, climate change does increase the risk and spread of disease. The World Health Organization has already noted an increase in the number of epidemics, and similarly, a recent study in the highlands of South America and Africa has shown that there's an increase in malaria in very populated and densely populated highland areas. Now, this upward trajectory movement in altitude has never been considered an option before, because the highland areas were always considered safe from malaria or from mosquito-borne diseases. On the other hand, oil mining, usage, and product disposal definitely contribute to pollution. Oil mining and incorrect machine disposal leach out pollutant toxins into the soil and the groundwater. And of course, oil usage contributes to air pollution, where air pollution is the largest environmental problem posing health issues. In fact, posing health issues to both developing and developed countries. In fact, in 2012 alone, 7 million people died due to the negative health effects of air pollution. In short, our world is changing. The cheetahs and the humans alike are affected by climate change. And this is simply illustrated by our story. It is meant to impress upon you the importance of CCF's Global Climate Change Initiative. And now I'd like to pass it off to Jen to discuss the second portion of our project.
So aside from the story, the second section of our deliverable was the portfolio. The portfolio consists of 8 potential partners that were provided by CCF. Therefore, we focused our research on these 8 organizations. These organizations will help provide platforms for funding, for training, for networking, and for other necessary opportunities for them. The 8 partner profiles consisted of Aspen Institute, the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, AZA, Clinton Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, Skoll World Forum, TED, the Climate Reality Project, and the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, the UNFCCC. Out of these 8 organizations, we focused in on recommending 3 main organizations that would most significantly uplift this new and exciting message on climate change and on endangered species and on humans. So first, we have the Clinton Foundation. The Clinton Foundation brings together people from over 180 countries to tackle the world's most pressing issues, including climate change, with the Clinton Climate Initiative, known as CCI. Following this recommendation, we have TED. TED focuses on sharing ideas worth spreading. This is a platform that would ideally broadcast CCF's new initiative and message on climate change. There are 3 routes that they can potentially take between the TED Conference, the TED Global Conference, and TEDx. And finally, we recommend, most importantly, the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, who works with over 1,700 organizations in 195 countries to participate in the international response to reduce emissions, to limit the average increase in temperature, and to counteract the negative effects of climate change that we are facing today. But most importantly, we also recommend Polar Bears International, who is the leading polar bears conservation organization in the entire world. Throughout the course of this semester, IDG supported CCF's partnership with PBI. We fortunately were able to write the actual press release that announced this partnership. We were also able to hold a Google Hangout on Earth Day that further promoted this partnership. We recommend that CCF should most definitely continue this partnership with PBI. While PBI should provide info from the polar bear point of view and perspective to create a document that can be used, a lot like the story that we created, to approach the organizations that IDG we researched and provided in the portfolio, but with also other animal conservation organizations around the world. These two organizations connect polar opposite ends of the world, from the Arctic to the African savanna. These are completely opposite ends but are showing that they are connected. And by showing that the polar bear and the cheetah are connected, we are showing that the whole world is interconnected in between, that every community, that every species is also related. So from here, we promote that CCF continues this amazing global climate change initiative and that we mitigate climate change. And now, we will have any questions and comments.
Jen, where did the Polar Bear International come from? It wasn't on your original list. Was that provided by CCF, or how did that come into the picture? It's a very good idea, by the way.
So this was something that was happening externally. We were provided an initial list that CCF wanted for us to research and to see if are they going to be useful platforms for this new idea and this new dialogue. PBI is a partner that they recently partnered with because it is someone they work closely with and who they feel will also be significant in bringing the world together on this new dialogue. So we are further recommending that they continue this work that they initiated and that we further announced with them.
Jen, did the Cheetah Foundation yet identify kind of its objectives, what they hope will come out of the campaign that you're hoping to design?
Well, initially they hope that it will bring together all types of different endangered species organizations to show that even though, like the polar bear and the cheetah are on opposite ends of the world, that they are connected and are fighting very similar issues. And initially they want to begin this new dialogue to bring together the entire world from all kinds of different backgrounds, different endangered species, just to show that we are all being affected, but yet we can fight it.
Did you find yourself frustrated with the broadness of the topic, or were you comfortable?
I think the hardest part was definitely constructing the story. The research, we had to narrow down into 3 core dangers that the cheetah was facing, and that was the most difficult part because climate change is a huge topic, controversial as well. So finding accurate information was extremely challenging, and deducing it down into one document.
And to follow up, because I like the question as opposed to the other group, what was your most difficult and most positive takeaway from this experience? Or is that unfair? What did you enjoy?
Would one of you like to start? Marina?
Okay, so what did we enjoy about this?
Yeah, or what did you take away? What was the benefit that you got out of this personally and or for the organization?
Well, first of all, I found it incredibly interesting. It definitely broadened my scope of study since I've never really had to delve into climate change before, so this was a huge educator in that sense. But also focused my studies into school more, actually. As a senior, over 4 years, you can kind of lose your train, and you're just like, well, I'm just going to school to go to school. Why am I going to school again? And IDG has really actually helped focus my attention on my studies to not only look for specific data analysis and critical thinking and writing skills that'll help me in the real world. And now I know, because of IDG, that I want to go into consulting and continue this style of work, actually. So that was my biggest takeaway, was figuring out my path, which is great, actually.
Go next. So I'll start out with what the problem was for me. I used to hate research. It's very hard, it's very time intensive, and conveying what it is that you've learned in a concise and effective way has always been very difficult for me. I come from a background of creative writing, English literature, and then I moved into the business school. So delineating when it's appropriate to write creatively and then write concisely for business was very difficult. But IDG was there to help me figure out how to do that. I have colleagues of all sorts of backgrounds that have been able to develop me as a person and as a professional individual. And so I would say the part that I enjoyed most was just learning something new, offering something from myself that can help someone else, and of course other species, and seeing how this has come together as a final product, and has encouraged people to do something about a global issue.
So I come from an engineering background, so I usually don't write. So this is great for me. I actually had a lot of practice. I think I'm getting better at writing. And also more as a personal level, I'd like to pursue climate change since I'm trying to pursue sustainable engineering. So that really applied to my field. And then it was just a lot of fun. Like I like researching about cheetahs. I mean, it's really, really great time.
Well, as sports management, I literally have never talked about cheetahs. It's like NCAA all the time. But this just opened my eyes to what every decision I make is having an impact. You know, it's not just what I'm doing in school. It's like, oh, I'm gonna have a career and I'm gonna get money and all this stuff. But it's also, you know, like I'm having an impact on this environment and on future generations' lives. Like, you know, reproduction and health. I don't want to make anyone die. So I think that this just opened my eyes to everything that I do has an effect. And now I'm going to every decision I make is going to be, you know, eco-friendly. And I don't want to ever have to, you know, tell my kids, you know, you can't go outside because of the pollution. It's too bad. You might get sick. I never want that to happen. So just every decision I make is really like I'm thinking about it more now.
Jane, have you given this presentation to Lori yet? Lori Mark? No. Okay. When does that happen?
So we actually were scheduled to present to Lori. Actually, the whole CCF team, along with some of the Unreasonable team, met Lori when she spoke at the San Jose Zoo. And were able to talk about it then. And we were able to present the findings to Teresa, our contact there. Lori has been reading through the report, and we're actually getting continual feedback about that, specifically in relation to their partnership with PBI, because they recently had a meeting to discuss how to move forward in some of these areas. So it wasn't kind of the standard presentation, but they've been able to look at the findings, which is really exciting to see.
If I could add into the takeaways that we had following up on Anna Miguel, I would just like to encourage everyone to take away the way I have, that fact-checking your sources and really investigating information that you're looking into is paramount to producing something that is useful and that's going to actually change something. And really just embracing sustainable solutions, because not doing something would have a far greater cost monetarily and just to everything else around us than just investing in some sort of sustainable alternative. That's the thought.
Thank you guys.
So just in closing, one last piece of business is we actually want to announce the team for next year. So if you're a part of the team, please stand up. Who will be the managing director, my role. Unfortunately, they're kicking me out. So he'll be taking over as my role, and Deidre Graham will be taking over as senior consultant, which is Joshua's role. And then we're actually creating a new executive position. We're still figuring out the title, but right now it's called Director of Strategic Partnerships or Initiatives, and that will be Jen Williams' role. And so you guys can sit back. So I just again wanted to say thank you for sitting through the presentation and hearing about the different things that we do. We really appreciate the support that everyone in this room gives, and it's just exciting to be able to work through these projects and be able to say we did it, we made it through, and to see the effects that this will continue to have on the organizations and on the students as well. So thank you again. And if you have any more questions,
Jen, I do have one, or a comment at least, is that this semester, This group had no faculty supervision as such, no staff supervision. It was really a student-led organization. And all of these results are the work of the students, which is absolutely incredible. And you're all to be congratulated for the leadership of the team as well as for all the work that each of you put into it, which was very clear tonight. And this is one of the things that I think you've given this organization a real legacy to build on for next year as well, and hopefully through by being part of business school, it will continue to grow as it has this year. But congratulations on an incredible job that you've done with all student-led leadership. Excellent job.
One follow-up question. Did you video live? Can we get access to what you just presented?
I believe we did. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this, so it could just be nonsense. But if it worked out, it will be sent to everyone who attended this evening. But if not, we're actually going to publish IDG's first impact report about what we've done over the course of this year, and so that can also be sent out and will be published on our website.
Great.
Great. So thank you again. If you have any more questions, feel free to stay around and ask the team, and take as much food as you like.